Let's kick it off with, we're going to start at home, particularly with Qantas.
Ooh, so look, Qantas
Did a bad thing.
Qantas did a bad thing. They've had a 2 weeks from hell. So look, there's a lot of things that are happening here, but let's lay it down, right? So at the moment, the ACCC is taking Qantas to court alleging that they've sold tickets to flight that they cancelled in 2022. So misleading conduct. They sold an average of tickets 2 weeks after cancellation, and in some instances, more than 40 days after. Wait, you look really disturbed by this. There's more. Last week, in a Senate inquiry, the CEO of Qantas, Alan Joyce, and the CEO of Jetstar fronted the committee pertaining to the extension of the travel redemption credits, right? So what they'd done is they had extended it a couple of times, and at the end of this year, December, was supposed to be the last extension that they could do, right? So the Senate committee was going to ask them what's happening over here. And basically, Alan Joyce and the CEO of Jetstar basically held really firm in their stance that they were not going to extend it anymore, much to the disdain of the committee. Actually, there is video on YouTube about this, and there was nothing that Alan Joyce could have said that would have, it was just a hit piece. It's actually pretty brutal, right? 3 days after the Senate inquiry, because of the ACCC stuff that happened in unison, Alan Joyce released a video saying, after he's gone to the Senate committee and said, we are not going to extend it anymore. We've extended. You can see that the redemption rate is coming down, i.e. people are taking these coupons.
Yeah, redeeming it. Yeah. Sorry, it's funny when you say redemption, but that's the right word. But yeah, sorry.
It just comes off weird. Stating, so Alan Joyce, 3 days after getting grilled on the committee, being absolutely firm in his stance, he releases a video saying there will be no more expiry dates.
Well, if you make enough noise.
More.
Oh, wow.
There is more. And all this comes after recent reports have been brought to light that the Qantas lobbied the government to block Qatar Airways' bid to more flights in Australia, which we know is, hint, hint, anti-competitive. And then there's more. It just doesn't stop. So last week as well, it was reported, because Alan Joyce is leaving as the incoming CEO of Qantas, that he's received a bonus of over $10 million. Bravo, Alan Joyce. That's a good payday. After meeting the company's COVID recovery goals. And wait, there's more. Of recently, I believe the CEO of Flight Centre took out a one-page ad, and this is very recent, basically condemning Qantas in terms of what they did, lobbying to the government to block Qatar Airways. So my, they've had a last 2 weeks from hell. A lot of different things happening.
A lot of corporate beef happening. That's it feels like the equivalent with Flight Centre, that diss track of an ad.
That is a diss track. Considering, I mean, that's pretty ballsy, because how many Qantas flights do you think are written by Flight Centre? They're capitalizing on the press, right?
That'd be a key partner for sure.
But of recent times, have we ever seen at least an Australian company go through this much bad press?
Look, it's not a shock, right?
Wait, not a shock for Qantas?
Well, I mean, it's not a shock. Well, it's not a shock that there are, in light of COVID and I guess the business climate and everything, that these tactics, they're not even tactics. It's just the choice of how you're positioning, how you, I guess, deal with customers, deal with the bigger, no one could have planned for this situation to have happened, right? Yeah. So they're trying to, I guess, manage it with the different stakeholders as best as they could possibly can. But I think it's a bit of damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Because, with Qantas. And I think there is still a layer of ultimately the customer being right. And I think there is that other aspect, if we're talking about kind of, to your point, what you said, anti-competitive behavior, that's literally, this is my territory. I'm marking it. No, thank you. It's a bit of, I feel like you might need to think of ways to better manage the business and the flow and whatnot.
Hold up. Let's talk about the headline thing is the ACCC taking Qantas to court, alleging that it sold tickets of flights that
which is
canceled.
Crazy.
Let's give an example of what this is. This is me on Facebook Marketplace.
Here we go.
No, just to practically illustrate how big this is. This is actually, of all the issues happening here, this is what's laddering up the most compelling and the most serious matter, right? Firstly, if you have the ACCC on your behind, it's terrible because even just say hypothetically they get proved innocent. I don't even know if that's the right term to this. The ACCC is going to be on Qantas' back. So this is one in the case that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because now the ACCC is focused on you. But just as an example, this is equivalent to me going on Facebook Marketplace.
He loves Facebook Marketplace.
I love Facebook Marketplace. I'm talking to someone and I quote unquote sell a guitar to someone for $800, right? And they say, cool, you know what? I'm going to pick it up tomorrow. All right. This is today, right? And then during those 4 whatever hours in the day, someone comes to me and says, you know what? I'll buy that same for 15 grand. And I'm like, sold, after I have quote and unquote sold it. So this is basically, you know, not market manipulation, but misleading conduct, because effectively you better believe that they were selling these for I would have to assume higher prices than what they initially sold. And they were not telling this to clients until it was too late and they had out of pocket. Because if you, for example, buy a ticket to Hawaii, you're also buying tickets to hotels.
Yeah.
To transportation, right?
Yeah.
So you may get the money back from Qantas, but you're probably not going to get the ticket there. So you have Australians out of pocket already in not good favor with Qantas due to COVID, due to, you know, baggage claims. Like, God bless, we went through Qantas and we were lucky, but I've heard so many horror stories of Qantas,
things that are
right?
completely out of your control, right? And people just need to, one, get out of the country in light of, I guess, with COVID, revenge travel, yes.
Yeah.
But two, they just expect the level of service as required, right? And it's not that much of a big ask in the grand scheme of things, considering
that's what you're paying for, right?
100%. I do want to make a disclaimer here that just for you, with the Facebook Marketplace example there, that is not an example of, you know, how he does business and whatnot. Just
No, I'm open for offers, but it's pretty big there. But let's talk about the Qantas brand, because we're marketers, right? So we're really interested in the brand. So especially look, we came from a different country. Like, I wasn't born in Australia. The Qantas brand is as strong as an Australian brand as you can get. It's a damn flying kangaroo. I mean, it doesn't get more Australian than that, right?
Synonymous.
There's so
many things synonymous.
How about that brand campaign?
Calling Australia home, man.
Australia.
I mean, that's up there.
I mean, that's our second national anthem, surely. That's our second national anthem. That is an anthem, right?
People would question and argue other songs, which we'll talk about later, but 100%.
That's up there. That's up there. But
the emotions get on high every single time that ad comes on.
It's pretty intense, right? And like how that's
patriotism at its finest.
That's an old ad that Qantas did, and once or twice it'll still come on, right? Because the great thing about Qantas is they're constantly refreshing their ad campaigns. They're big on brand, right?
Around the world, away from their family
and
friends.
All is which to say that the Qantas brand means a lot to Australia, right?
Yes.
What do you think about that, Kat? How important do you think the Qantas brand is to Australia?
Well, especially in comparison to America that has so many like domestic sort of airlines, I think Qantas is just the one you think of at the drop of a hat when it comes to like Australian travel.
Why though? Why? Because I agree.
Because they've survived.
True, during this pandemic.
And Ansett, remember, guys? Like,
what the hell? That's a blast from the past. But the whole narrative that I'm trying to wheel here is, it's because this is the whole buy Australian thing, right? It actually is.
Yeah.
It actually is, right? Because they've invested so much in their brand. A lot of Australians want to.
It's trusted. It's tested.
Why is it trusted? Because it's Australian, right?
Well, it's yeah, and it's you know, I guess through your marketing and you build that brand trust, that that expectation, which is why I guess when you're thinking about all these stories, it's like, oh, they would never do that to us.
Yep.
And here we are. It's you know, it's funny to think of the behavior. The first thing, as you were saying all that stuff, it's like, so it's like with the discount airliners and the you know, the unreliability at times. But otherwise it's a matter of, I guess, things happen, right? Like it's no one is safe when it comes to from a branding point of view.
So then my next question is, they've built so much of this brand equity prior to COVID happening. So COVID, in the words of Alan Joyce, knocked us for six, which is such an Australian way of articulating something. But Alan Joyce, six is a good thing. I get what you're saying. But anyway,
Yeah, that doesn't quite make sense.
it's a weird one, right? They're just saying they got knocked about, but knocked for six. You want to score six, man. Anyway, anyway, can their brand recover? Because I mean, this is back to back to back, and it seems the wider rhetoric of the public. I mean, the Current Affair are having a field day with this. They love it. They absolutely love it. Alan Joyce, said to me,
Alan Joyce must be like
number one.
Well, no, what I'm saying here is it's I wonder when the changeover is going to happen, because one, did he think he was going to get unscathed here? Yeah. But it's just like, okay.
What does it matter? It's got 10 million in the bank.
Yeah,
walking all the way to the bank with these Benjamins.
But it's a bit, I can't help but think, would he be, because he did lead Qantas, I guess, the most part through the last.
Well, it was a great
through his tenure.
It was a great executive.
It was great, right?
Yeah.
And I guess the legacy gets tarnished just at the end. But I'll answer your question, I think, about with brand trust, with Qantas again, will they recover? I'm sure they will. However, I guess the only caveat there is depending on, I guess, the outcomes with ACCC, right? Because that's pretty damning.
Well, actually, I don't want to play hypotheticals because it's pretty intense. But yeah, to me, I think this is interesting because, like, to me, do you feel like at a certain level, there's some brands that just can't fail? Like big brands that have built equity for so long time. When you think about Australia as well, we are so brand ingrained. And
I wouldn't say we're completely brand ingrained. It depends, right?
I think for certain things.
Love a good home brand from time to time.
Yeah. So sorry, I meant like when you think about flight is really interesting because you have this caveat of quality and all of that, right? Which is so
comfort.
Safety. Actually, safety was the main element there, right? So when, for example, they have low cost China Airways, Scoot and all that, like it's just so amazing. Like psychologically, there is such a big dissonance there, right?
Yeah.
But then you think about it now when you say like, I will out of spite not use the Qantas brand again. People are saying that they're no longer going to fly. I think we talk a big game there, but like if I've traveled to Melbourne for business, you better believe I'm going to still say Qantas. Like I almost feel like the Australian public. And to me, this Qatar Airways is a very important one as well. Just simply does not have the amount of choice to fully boycott Qantas.
Yeah.
And even though they're a private enterprise, they're like, where there's smoke, there's fire. It seems like there's a guarded government interest to which at least the current Albanese government has not been able to articulate. And that's what the opposition is zoning at it. What is the national interest? So that was the term and phrase used. There is national interest to keep Qantas, like to block Qatar Airways. And like, if you talk to any like layman off the street, us included, like, what does it look like? It looks like you're guarding them.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of any strategic national, it's not owned by the government. So I think that's interesting. And the last question is, will you be flying Qantas? You better believe, Will. What do you think we're gonna do with these damn Qantas points?
There is that. You're right.
They've got us.
The loyalty program is probably top notch there, to be honest.
I work in financial comparison. I'm not gonna name the company. And people go gaga over Qantas points, even though they can't really understand.
It has really served us well from time to time.
It works.
Look, I think it's a matter of depending on what is available, if it's tried and tested, I guess it remains to be seen. The bigger question here is when is our next travel plans?
All right, I'm going to zone this one out.
All right.